Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're setting off on a truly epic journey, right to the very edge of the Eurasian steppe. We're going to explore a place where two completely different worlds collide in just the most spectacular way you could imagine. Picture this. You're standing beneath an immense, endless northern sky, entirely surrounded by untouched wilderness. And then, just over the horizon, a glittering, neon-drenched metropolis just rises straight out of the plains. It's a massive study in extremes, and we're going to unpack exactly how it all works.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this really is the central question driving our journey today. How does a landscape characterized by complete, ancient silence, a place virtually unchanged for millennia, just sit right next door to China's busiest international land port? How do the timeless rhythms of nomadic herders actually coexist with the relentless, thundering pace of modern globalization, freight trains, and bright neon lights? Well, to understand this incredible contrast, we first have to understand the land itself. Part 1, where land becomes sky.
To really grasp Hulunbuir, you have to wrap your head around its staggering scale. Widely considered to be China's largest and most complete ecosystem, we're talking about a total area of 250,000 square kilometers. That is absolutely massive. It's a perfectly balanced ecosystem. You've got 126,000 square kilometers of the Xuexiang and Yabuli forest, 100,000 square kilometers of lush, boundless grassland, and 20,000 square kilometers of unique, life-giving wetlands. The whole thing is woven together by over 500 lakes and 3,000 intersecting rivers. It's just an absolute powerhouse of biodiversity. Now, deep within that massive forested area lives a truly fascinating group of people. The Yuwenki tribe is this tight-knit community of just over 240 individuals. They're actually renowned as China's last deer herders. For generations, they've relied entirely on the thick woods of the Xuexiang and Yabuli forest to raise reindeer. And what's amazing is how perfectly adapted these animals are. These reindeer have uniquely large hooves, literally bigger than a human hand, that act like natural snowshoes. It lets them easily walk through the deep snow and that marshy, wet forest floor without getting stuck. So the absolutely crucial point here is that this forest is far more than just a beautiful habitat for the Yuwenki and their reindeer. The Xuexiang forest actually acts as a giant, ecological sponge. It's basically a massive water tower. The dense vegetation and all those extensive root systems capture the region's rainfall and thick winter snow, storing the water and then slowly, consistently releasing it. That feeds the vast plains and rivers below throughout the entire year. Without this forest, the grasslands simply wouldn't exist. Let's actually follow that water as it flows out of the forest and carves its way through the Mongolian landscape.
Part 2, the sinuous Mother River.
This brings us to the Morigele River. In Mongolian, Morigele translates beautifully to sinuous river or river of encounter. And honestly, when you see it winding perfectly and seemingly endlessly across those incredibly green, flat plains, the name makes perfect sense. It acts as the mother of the grasslands, watering the lush vegetation that ends up feeding millions of cattle, sheep, and horses. And there's some truly surprising math behind how this river flows. Get this, if you were to draw a straight line from the start of the Morigele right to its end, the distance is only 319 kilometers. However, because the land is so remarkably flat, the water flows incredibly slowly. It zigzags and beds back on itself over and over again. If you trace its actual serpentine course, the total length stretches out to a massive 1,000 kilometers. It's just this endless, meandering ribbon of life. The legendary Chinese writer Lao She famously praised the Morigele, flat out calling it the best serpentine river in the country. This slow, majestic, winding nature is exactly what allows the water to soak deeply into the rich black soil. It creates the absolute best, most nutrient-dense grasses for the herds of the nomadic Mongolian people who call this land home. Following these thousands of winding rivers further west, we finally see where all this rushing water ultimately pools together.
Part 3, a lake like the sea.
366. Take a second to let that number sink in. We are talking about Hulun Lake. And to put that mind-boggling scale into perspective, Hulun Lake is the size of 366 West Lakes combined. Covering over 2,339 square kilometers, it's essentially an inland sea sitting right smack in the middle of the Inner Mongolian Plateau. What makes Hulun Lake a true ecological miracle, though, is its stability. Even though this region has surprisingly low annual rainfall, a really complex network of connected rivers flows in and out of the lake. During the wet seasons, excess water just flows out towards the border. And during dry seasons, the outflow cuts off entirely, turning it into a stable inland lake. This keeps the water levels consistent through droughts and floods, creating a permanent paradise for hundreds of species of migratory birds, swans, and fish. So we have this vast, ancient ecosystem, endless grasslands, wandering reindeer, serpentine rivers, and a massive inland sea. But here is where our journey takes a dramatic turn. How does this endless natural silence actually meet modern civilization at the edge of the Eurasian steppe? Hang on, because we are about to completely leave the quiet wilderness and step straight into the fast-paced, glowing world of global trade. Part 4. City of Three Cultures. Welcome to Manzhouli, where the boundless green plains abruptly end and a bustling, vibrant, multicultural border city begins. Now, Manzhouli wasn't always this booming hub. Back in 1901, when Tsarist Russia built the Middle East Railway, this spot was just a remote railway stop, literally the very first station as trains entered China. By 1902, the first wooden national gate was built. But from those humble origins, fueled by a century of border trade, Manzhouli has exploded into China's largest mainland road port, boasting over 150,000 permanent residents today. Honestly, just walking down the street here is a sensory overload. You're surrounded by trilingual signs in Chinese, Mongolian, and Russian, while imposing European domes completely dominate the skyline. You can walk through a square featuring a massive Russian nesting doll, then stroll down the Sino-Sioux pedestrian street, which is just packed with merchants, tourists, and locals trading furs and electronics. And the food? You can sit down for authentic Russian smoked sausages, thick cheese bread, and fermented kvass, right after listening to traditional Mongolian music on the street. It is a true collision of worlds. Now, what's really interesting about this is a hidden logistical secret that actually fuels this entire city's economy. The standard train track gauge in China is 1,435 millimeters wide, but in Russia, the gauge is 1,520 millimeters. It's exactly an 85 millimeter difference. That tiny gap in width means the trains cannot simply cross the border and keep driving. And that right there brings us to the beating heart of Manzhouli's economy. Part 5. The Golden Neon Frontier. Let's look at how this city manages the monumental task of moving resources across a fractured railway network. Because of that 85 millimeter track difference we just talked about, a fascinating logistical ballet happens here every single day. Step 1. International freight trains packed full of Russian timber, coal, and gas arrive at the border. Step 2. They pull into these massive, specialized exchange yards right in Manzhouli. And Step 3. Massive cranes have to physically lift the cargo. We're talking heavy shipping containers, mountains of coal, and transfer it from the wider Russian train cars onto the narrower Chinese ones. This physical transfer point is what makes Manzhouli an absolute powerhouse of trade. And standing watch over all this trade is the National Gate. This single stretch of railway has seen incredible geopolitical history unfold. The first-generation gate back in 1902 was just a simple wooden structure with a Russian double-headed eagle. It was rebuilt in the 60s and then again in the 80s. Today, the fifth-generation gate is a colossal, imposing architectural portal that cost over 80 million RMB to construct. It's a proud, towering symbol of modern China looking straight out over the Eurasian steppe. But hey, if you think Manzhouli is impressive by day, just wait until the sun sets. As dusk falls over the dark, quiet grasslands, the city completely transforms. Millions of lights click on, and this remote border town turns into a glowing fairy tale world of golden, neon-drenched Russian architecture. The domed roofs and European facades light up the night sky, creating this absolutely breathtaking contrast against the pitch-black wilderness that surrounds it. Which leaves us with this final, striking thought. When you stand right here, at the very edge of the boundless, ancient grasslands, with the wild wind in your hair, and you look over at the glittering golden neon of this bustling port city, where exactly does nature end and civilization begin? It's a remarkable testament to the sheer scale of the natural world and the unstoppable drive of human enterprise, just existing right side by side. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you eager to explore more of the incredible extremes our world has to offer.